Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of the SaaS Sessions podcast. We have Anand Datta on the show. Anand is currently the VP at Nexus Venture Partners. Nexus Venture Partners is India's leading venture capital fund with over like 1.5 billion dollar under management and an active portfolio of about more than 70 companies. Anand at Nexus VP, he focuses on investing in early stage seed or Series A companies. So Anand, such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Sunil, for having me.
Yeah, I quickly gave a very short introduction of you, but maybe in your own words, can you tell more about yourself and what kind of journey you have had in the SaaS ecosystem?
Sure. So I am fairly new at investing, if you want to put it that way. I have
Yeah.
been an investor for 1 year, but prior to that, I have been mostly in operations side and more on the entrepreneurial venture as well of my
Mm-hmm.
own. If I have to go back to and I'll not put it as a SaaS ecosystem, Sunil, and I'll give you the reason why I don't call it a SaaS ecosystem. SaaS is a
Okay.
way of delivery or a way of revenue collection.
Right.
Technology companies have now existed for decades, right?
Yeah.
And I think probably Salesforce and others were pioneers who started collecting software as a service sort of revenue streams because they
Mm-hmm.
saw the power of this revenue collection model. However, till probably was 70% of the softwares are sold as licenses, and SaaS is
Right.
proliferating very fast, and I think COVID will make it faster.
Mm-hmm.
But SaaS is more a way of delivery of the software
Yeah.
and collection of revenue.
Makes sense.
So I will rather put it that what has been my interaction with the software and the tech ecosystem, and then
Mm-hmm.
we will discuss in more detail what is this delivery model and what is the power of it, and then how we should leverage more from it.
Right.
And this goes back even like obviously I did my undergrad from IIT Kharagpur in 2006, and back then was the time when the first time like IT services was majorly the trend in India, but the first time some of the tech companies and others were coming into India, so
Mm-hmm.
we were hearing about some of these like trilogies of the world or Facebook and Google coming into campuses and hiring, and the first
Mm-hmm.
bunch of guys were going to Valley and getting exposed to this. My first brush with the larger technology companies would be in strategy consulting. When I took a transfer and went to Valley, and
Mm-hmm.
people like Activision Blizzard, which is a very big gaming company, Qualcomm, Cisco, these were my clients, and I was working. And
Mm-hmm.
very interestingly, because we are talking about SaaS now, our projects in these companies were more like, we are in the licenses mode move. How do we go into SaaS? How do we make sure that we can increase the lifetime value of our products, easier to deploy, easier to give more updates on the
Mm-hmm.
cloud? Because after Salesforce got launched, I think pretty much people started to wake up and realize that earlier model used to be on premise. You will go a year-long license will be sold over golfing and
Yeah.
having high tea with people. And then 1 year later, if you have to change or upgrade, for upgrade meant like a huge process because everybody will have to put some disks on, download, do some sort of coding. And here
Mm-hmm.
there was a new powerful way of hosting everything. And cloud is what actually, frankly, if you want to look at the pivotal moment of what
Yeah.
changed,
Makes sense.
as it was the introduction of cloud, and that's where Salesforce came in. So through cloud, you can suddenly say that like you can just switch off, no operating cost, like no capex sort of a cost, where you have to put in this new software and you have to really drill down into changing everything within the organization to put an
Mm-hmm.
upgrade on. And from that, where came this power of SaaS or software as a service.
Right.
My first brush, actually, now when I think back, was even a little before that, and I did not realize because Anish and others, KK,
Uh-huh.
and Rani, they were my batchmate. Anish and KK were batchmate from IIT Kharagpur, and
Uh-huh.
they were these two guys. Like we were always like, what happened? Like you went down, and then you are opening some company called Capillary. What
Mm-hmm.
is this Capillary? What are you guys doing? Then
Mm-hmm.
bunch of very good friends, one of them whom I've invested in now, Abhijit, he joined Capillary as among the first few employees or something. And these guys they were getting money from Rajan Anandan at that time, and then they raised from like around $15 million, and we were like, whoa, what happened over here? Like
Yeah.
we were thinking that KK, one of the most intelligent guys you'll meet, leaving his lucrative job. I think he got a job offer in Microsoft or Trilogy, one of them. You had leaving, and Anish was working at ITC. He left that job to start
Right.
up. what is happening over there. But that
Yeah.
was more my interaction with startup than just SaaS only. But later I realized what they were doing and understood when
Yeah.
I was in that tech ecosystem. So
Right.
that was there. Obviously, after that, I quit consulting. I worked with Franklin Templeton.
Mm-hmm.
Financial services are among the largest users of technology. If you look at technology products, so
Yeah.
I was working in their global strategy team. We were working in strategies such as build, buy, or take it as a outsourced. There are legacy IT things. There are various other SaaS products which you use. So we could already see that what is the power of SaaS, and once you get in, how the recurring revenue steps in, how
Right.
you on the go keep improving the product. That's what you can do on SaaS. Unlike in licensing model, where every improvement in the product you'll have to ship it down and make sure that people have to do. Here, whenever you are, think about it like the way your app updates happen right now on your phone. Similarly, on
Exactly.
an
Yeah.
enterprise level, whatever you are learning from the customer, you are able to keep on upgrading it. That's a
Right.
huge power, and that's where in Franklin I also realized that the power of software lies there. Obviously, I worked in consumer after that for a very long time. Like I worked in
Mm-hmm.
management, I was a founding team member. I worked with Bima, which was more an insurance solution provider. So we were not there as SaaS, but insurance
Right.
solution provider. But once
Mm-hmm.
I joined on the investing side, I'm getting to work very closely with Gudera. In fact, my first investment was Nectar, which is again, as I talked about, Abhijit, who is working on the sales tech side of SaaS.
Yeah.
Very exciting days. I keep interacting with a lot of our portfolio companies, like, and get to meet people like Ankit and others who are like really
Nice.
are over there. So yeah, so throughout this, I believe if you look at it, cloud as the driver and
Mm-hmm.
SaaS or software as a service model of collecting revenue or giving recurring, like continuous update, or the freedom or the ability to close the license whenever you want and move on to others. That drives the power of this model, where
Mm-hmm.
you are a lot more ready to experiment and start with a product. And that's where all this freemium model, all this try 3 months for free, that comes because you can switch in, switch off. There is no this thing. That's a very powerful way of giving technology and overcoming the technology barrier.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Lot of this, for example, in Franklin Templeton, you will see people who have been working there for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
For them to make the way the change things work, change it, that's a huge barrier. And if
Yeah.
it's not for SaaS, the technology adoption will not move that fast as it has done.
Totally. And I think it helps in the overall business model as well. SaaS companies would retain more customers as compared to a non-SaaS model, right? Because you sell and then you forget, and you don't know, you're not connected with your customer on a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis where you're shipping updates and you're talking to them. Whereas in SaaS, you're constantly connected. So I think it improves the chances of retention as well, and helps increases the lifetime value of that particular customer too. So yeah, overall it worked out for like everyone, like, yeah, and thanks to cloud and thanks to like many companies who disrupted. That's amazing. And yeah, talking about Abhijit, so yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction. So he was on this show a few episodes back, and
Nice.
people can definitely go and check that episode
I
out.
would encourage people because he's one of the very few people who have scaled a SaaS from 0 to 50 million in like enterprise and more
Yeah.
than gold. See, we are a very product first investors. We
Mm.
always believe in product, but never underestimate the power of sales in any
Yeah.
technology sales and all. And to
Makes
get your
sense.
sales engine going, you will see a lot of companies now just like Claris of the world, people.ai and all this of the
Yeah.
world, Nectar. This will focus a lot in improving the productivity of sales folks. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So talking about like, SaaS ecosystem, or as you call it, the tech ecosystem who charge in a subscription model way, right?
Yeah.
So what is that state in India, right? Like COVID has impacted a lot, obviously, and I think it has more than impacted. I think it has given more of a level playing field for many people or many companies who were not doing big or were not innovating, ground to innovate, space to innovate, and acquire like bunch of new customers. So the whole thing is being maybe disrupted, like in India. So according to you, what is the state of current, what is the current state of SaaS in India?
So let's break it down into two levels, right? First, yes, COVID is going to be a first level is at the global level, what will
Yeah.
happen as, and then comes at the India level, right?
Mm-hmm.
If in like any other company, any other industry, There will be a consumer side, there will be a supply side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in technology, specifically things which are used as SaaS, it's mostly a global game. There's not going to be technology apart from vertical SaaS. Of course, there can be some vertical SaaS, and very few things which are made for like SME SaaS or something, which is very very typical to the country.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Mostly and largely SaaS will be a global play, right?
Right.
So whatever happens and impacts it globally will impact consumption in India also in a certain way. And similarly, the supply side is a little more curious case for India because India has a high concentration of developers and the STEM engineers part of it. So
Mm-hmm.
how does that impact with remote working becoming more and more prevalent? That will be very very interesting outcome on. If
Yeah.
you look at on the demand side, what COVID will do is, or already doing is, the demand for cloud will go through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
What will happen is that people will be working more and more remotely, whether it be remote security or whether it will be people engagement on HR tech, or whether
Mm-hmm.
it will be managing expenses which earlier you could just, there are still companies in which you will put your bills in an envelope and drop it. All this will have to move on to technology and more technology adoption.
Right.
And all this will have to move to cloud because how many of these companies can actually afford to set up an on-premise and on this thing and all that sort of infrastructure, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody will want to right now, right? You want that flexibility of, and that gives you the speed also, right? If I want to do it within this
Right.
2 3 months, I will always go through the SaaS way, like just install it from the cloud, take a freemium model, maybe try it for some time, some features, and then keep upgrading. So
Makes
demand
sense.
side, there is no doubt at all that there will be a huge, huge boost to demand on the all the SaaS products
Mm-hmm.
currently. Multiple areas where technology adoption will move much fast.
Right.
Areas such as like cyber security and others will also
Mm-hmm.
see a boost.
Right.
So very, very bullish on this one.
Right.
Secondly, what happen on the supply side, what India will see as a force multiplier is that as working becomes remote, there is then frankly there is no difference between, if I'm not sitting in Valley and I'm sitting in, let's say, Omaha, there is no difference between me and a person working from India, right? Until unless he's the quality is good.
Right.
So, and any which ways H1B will be sending many people back to India, and then they will still work for those companies. So the practices of working from here to the global companies will increase.
Yeah.
That generally deepens the talent pool as well. So what happens because of that, there is a good vicious cycle going on there, which will increase the quality of the talent pool that is in India.
Mm-hmm.
And this first generation of the product SaaS products company, or the product companies that we have, software product companies that we have seen coming out
Mm-hmm.
from India, I think this will just accelerate, and more good software product companies will come out from India.
Right.
So definitely that will happen. What will
Right.
also happen is that if you see in between this customer and supply are actually productivity tools and DevOps tools, that entire segment which lies
Yeah.
with developers, right? And we are already seeing multiple great companies coming out for developers pool,
Yeah.
and
Makes sense.
that will become a more prevalent thing because as this pool deepens, there are more people who understand what are the developer problems that they are solving for them. Generally the developer problems are solved for themselves. If you see
Yeah.
it, what happens is that they will do something, put it on GitHub, make it free, make people use it, and then create a premium version on top of it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how the products also, and these products go as bottoms up adoption. People talk about this, they move into communities. There is some evangelist who will come up, and then this
Yeah.
thing picks. We will see more
Definitely.
of that happening from India. Maybe so the India and the Valley bond will increase tighter, and this will see some more of DevOps tool coming out over there.
Yeah, makes sense. And then like multiple thoughts. So, but first one is a lot of companies in India who have this SaaS model are building here and selling here itself. And a lot of others who build here and sell outside, right? Like companies like Freshworks who started in India, Zoho, and and they scale outside, even Capillary, right? Like Capillary also like multiple, like if you take any of the top 10, 20 SaaS companies in India who are above 10 million ARR or even 50 million ARR, they have the huge chunk of like customer base which is in the US or Europe or like Southeast Asia region. So what do you think, like is the space, or what do you think it's there is an opportunity of scaling a 10 million ARR or a 50 million ARR business for a SaaS company, but by only selling in India. Like you don't want to restrict, but then huge chunk of that should come from India, because India is definitely a SaaS market. Yes, again, as you mentioned, like a lot of developers. So do you think like is there a DevOps focused SaaS company who is doing that, right? I think Postman would definitely be one, but anything apart from that?
No, no. See, there are two distinct things, right? That DevOps
Mm-hmm.
part is inherently global. It's a person. This thing, like
Yeah,
you can. If I'm a developer, I'm using Postman. I'm here or I'm in US. You don't know. And secondly, still Postman. A lot of that sales most comes from the US, and that's what
exactly.
takes
Yeah.
long also from the US.
Mm-hmm.
To your original question, whether a 10 million, yeah, and I'm not going to put a number because number predictions are generally they fall flat,
Yeah,
right?
I know. Huh. Just to put some context.
Yeah, no, no worries. Like, I've been a consultant, I've done that, and I've seen how it pans out in 10 years.
Yeah.
So the key point over there is that let's put a broad subjective question. Can a substantially large
Yeah,
company
something
build out
like that.
India just by focusing on Indian revenue, Indian SaaS revenue? My
Mm-hmm.
answer to that at current state is no.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very difficult. Just because it depends on the customer. So you do not have the large or the SMB based who can pay. Indian economy is still small and mostly based out of SME and MSMEs, right? So
Right.
there is some SME SaaS like Khata Book and Credit are coming along.
Mm-hmm.
They will have to find out non-SaaS ways of monetizing that. That's the problem, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there are some offshoots like Vapar and all, which are in the details, like the SME SaaS side of thing, which who are able to charge it and who are able to prove VCs like us wrong. Because and by the way, I as personally love to be proven wrong by an entrepreneur. My day job is to guess that this is going to happen, and I take those guess. But if an entrepreneur can go and execute and prove me wrong and create a large company, largest companies are get created by contrarian bets.
Yeah.
So people like Vapar and others, they are going out there and like are proving, like let's say 50 rupees, 100 rupees, the SMEs, MSMEs are ready to pay. But you are asking me at this point of time to take a bet on that. At this point of time, I do not have enough indicators to say that very, very large company can come out of it. Offshoots are there. We can already see, like, even small merchants or small kirana shops, people pay 100 to 100 rupees for
Mm-hmm.
Hotstar also, for example, just
Right.
for example, right? They
Right.
can pay for software or services like that. It was a game to see, but in general, Indian industry has been a little frugal on paying for SaaS and payment in the SaaS ecosystem. Also, by the way, apart from just revenue, payment collection, especially if you're a vertical or a more a horizontalish SaaS,
Mm.
payment collection can be challenge at times. So many
Yeah.
companies who are in the retail vertical SaaS, they have those two or three large modern retail format people only to go for. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can face payment collections problem over there. So net down arrow, if you ask me personally, at this point of time, I don't see a very large company on SaaS coming out just focusing on India until
Yeah.
they crack a parallel monetization stream. They will have to go global.
Yeah. But curious to know what would be those challenges, right? Because let's say if you want to build a 10 million ARR business, like putting some numbers to it, right?
Selling to 10 lakh people is a very, until unless your product goes viral,
Yeah.
it's very, very difficult, right?
Yeah.
And how many of businesses, well, you can do it.
So that obviously there would be challenges, right? And there are challenges. That's why it hasn't happened yet, right?
Hmm.
So I put these challenges in, let's say, 5 different types of buckets. One is startups, one is funding, one is people, one is technology, and one is market, right? So where do you think the challenges lie in, and what are the different challenges in each of these buckets according to you?
Sure. Yes, I think
Starting with, let's say, startups to start with, like.
no, I would not straitjacket this into five buckets, Sunil. I think the challenge there is more into the consumer or Indian businesses mindset, I would say. Because what
Maybe
happens,
the market, basically.
let's call it a market,
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah,
And
something
then
like that.
let's call it a market. Yeah, right thing to call is that the market currently doesn't exist probably. And the reason,
Mm.
if we dig down to the reason below that, like one level below the drivers, biggest challenge is actually in the mindset in adoption of technology, whether this will or the see what happens is let me take a step back. What does
Mm-hmm.
technology do? it automates things, generally gets into the workflow and make you to work on that more in a streamlined, easy way, in a high quality way. But that would mean that it gets done again and again in that same pattern. That's what precisely technology does, right? And if you go to technology product and not technology solutions or services, then you even what you want to do is to come to the most optimum sort of a product and say that, hey, do it this way. Whereas what happens in India is that you've got cheap labor. So you always try to go for solutioning and say कि यार ये तो अपने तरफ से बना. First of all, you would not want to pay for a tech product. You'll say यार कितना फायदा मिलेगा इसको ऑटोमेट करके कितना कट जाएगा. So take for example financial suites for example or HRMS, right? Like this already ठीक है. Excel पे मेरा बंदा तो बैठा हुआ कर ले रहा है, उसका 20,000 रुपए चार्ज है.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. So why would I pay for technology? Second thing is that वो अगर एचआर वाला बंदा बैठा है ना, तो मैं लाला हूँ, मैं जाके बोलूंगा कि यार 4 चीजें और कर दे, ये कर दे. वो सेम बंदा would be doing 5 things. So finally net that आदमी will be doing my equivalent of work. Now obviously there is an argument to be made that the quality of work will not be similar. There will be errors, there will be this, but that is where you have to come out of that into the mindset of that I want to pay for a better way of doing work.
Right.
And that will slowly happen. That will happen in future as the salary levels of people also increase, as people's the first generation of people come who have tasted you using technology and who are less also afraid of technology because they have now used app on their mobile phones and all. So that will happen. But all I'm saying is that I don't see that happening next 5 years. And what will happen in India is that you'll see a lot of copycats, a lot of solutions that is available. Somebody will say that ye do. So take the example of Tally, for example. Probably 80% of the Tally's market is sold as a pirated counterfeit market. People use Tally, but at the same time, people still use CA. People are not putting, like, they have not gone for a complete automate. Now, whether a solution like Bank Open will suddenly open up people where no code, low code solution, which is more customizable, people are seeing and just making it for their own platform. Things will play out, right? Things will play out.
Totally. But is it also in the founders ecosystem that, let's say, if anyone is starting a company and they're putting their product at like $10 per month, they're pricing the product, and that product they're not investing any time in selling in India like at all, right? Because they want to scale to US, they want to scale to Europe, they want to scale in Southeast Asia, and they totally neglect selling in India because that has become like a trend, let's say, amongst founders. I don't know, maybe you would know better, but is it that, or is it still like something different, right? Like founders are not, because I spoke to many, and from whatever I spoke with, they sell, the majority of their business come from US, yes, but the thing is they don't try to sell in India at all. Like there's no effort, or there's no time or invested in selling in India at all. But then on contrary, right, let's say if you take any Indian company, it's any Indian tech company, like even Zomato, Swiggy, Dunzo, they would be using some SaaS products to run their operations inside. Now they are using SaaS products which are, let's say, like built in outside India, like any US company or any European company. Now they are using those kind of products to like run the in-house operations or run the in-house things. So why can't that same be replaced by a company, a SaaS company, or a SaaS product which is built in India?
Yeah. No, interesting question, Sunil. Like they can definitely be replaced, and I don't think that's a problem from founders. Founders will do the best. What is that comes out to the best for their company. They have got to, they have not got no affiliation, or they have got no responsibility to grow कि इंडिया में SaaS use कर रहे हैं कि नहीं.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they have to grow their company.
Correct. Their responsibility is towards the mission they have picked up, and if the money comes from US, if the money comes from Europe, you go to US or Europe. Like why would they come to India or?
Makes sense.
But to the question that you are asking, definitely, and see most of the SaaS first of all, like we are, again, as I said, as the first point in our discussion, we are, and the entire industry I see put SaaS as a very broad stroke. The SaaS enterprise SaaS gets sold very differently. So for example, Kudera is an enterprise SaaS. We started from India completely. Most of the Indian most of our revenue and people were focused on India, and 80% of our revenue was coming at India. But the gross margins over there were probably close to 10%, 20% this range, 30% at max. Because everything, even after putting a SaaS solution over there, a platform, people will be expecting, the larger enterprises will be expecting that चार लोगों को और बैठा दो, and that customers
Yeah.
putting that customer success team, putting 5 people and all, then there is no power of the SaaS. SaaS power is that every incremental sale, your gross margin goes to 98% almost, because there is nothing that you need to do after that. That's how the SaaS products work.
Right.
That's where that kills the margin. We shifted the entire business to US, like not entire business, but we shifted the entire focus to business, focus to US, and the gross margins have gone to 70% now.
Right.
So and then it's increasing because more and more sales are happening over there.
Yeah.
So that's
Lucrative.
yeah. Obviously, and make I would say more than lucrative, sensible thing to do.
Yeah.
Why would you ever stay in any business where the gross margins are lower
Yeah.
and also the pool is lower? If you do a 2x2 where is the revenue pool and where is that revenue pool profitable?
Definitely.
And if it's high, you would definitely go there. And but that said, and that is just enterprise. Then after that comes SMB, where if you look at the Freshworks and Zohos of the world, how does that model work? You create a top of funnel, then the top of funnel calls and your inside sales tries to convert, and you convert, then you pay at $1.
Right.
Then that money is, if the sort of CAC you are paying, if you get to convert a lifetime value where somebody is ready to pay, let's say $20 versus somebody is ready to pay $5.
Yeah.
That's very different. And still, if you compare the businesses, right, the size of business, I know you are giving an example of, let's say, Zomato and Swiggy picking up. But if you compare that to the SMB size of the US economy is $20 trillion. We are $2.5 trillion. We are at 10x
That
difference.
that is also.
We are at a 10x difference, and this $2.5 trillion economy is spread over 1.5 billion people.
Yeah.
So our GDP per capita is probably 20 times lower than, 25 times to be precise, lower than the GDP per capita of US. So there is no way that the economics of this will work. Actually, if I were a founder, I would always try to leverage the arbitrage, where if I have, let's say, people who can make this product at 1/5 the price and I'm able to sell it at a higher price, why wouldn't I do
Yeah,
that?
exactly.
That said, last point to add over there is that most of the Indian startup, they don't neglect Indian, consumer. They start piloting with the Indian consumer. They try to do something over here, and then they try to expand. Any of the companies you look at that, that's what Capillary did. Most eternity, Darwin Box is also doing that. Every other company tries to do that. Of course, that is where the challenges also come to the companies, and we can discuss that. Like, making a product for India is very different from making a product.
Yeah, totally. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think WhatFix also did that in a way, and now we also focus on the US and Europe and let's say outside India market. Yeah,
which makes sense because the size of the market is higher, the gross margins is higher.
Definitely.
And frankly, as an Indian, and if you take the nationalistic fervor also in that, I think that makes much more sense because you are getting back dollars to the country.
Yeah.
That will then flow back into the economy, and that will then drive the economy to have more spend on the consumers.
Makes sense. Yeah. So irrespective of any SaaS company, like, who sell in India, who sell outside India, how are you or how is Nexus helping these SaaS companies or whatever your portfolio is in SaaS, like, solve these challenges that your portfolio gets? So like, what are different like things that you do to, help the founders or help the whole company solve any of the challenges that are faced?
Yeah, I will definitely, although we are investors into all these companies, all the credit always lies with the entrepreneur. It's the entrepreneur who calls it and does it. All at Nexus we can do is that we can be sounding board to the companies. We can open doors to them in different places and whatever they want. And of course, we have had this unique advantage of being one fund across the globe structure, where we work as one team. So it's like, like for example, on Nectar, Jishnu and I are together. Jishnu is in Menlo Park, I'm here in India. So there's and because we from the very beginning know that Nectar is going to be a global company, and the founders are sitting in Singapore, by the way. So the idea is to ensure that the flow of knowledge from Valley to India and from India to Valley, and here in India, I can support them on hiring and I can support them on everything. There in Valley, we can support them the knowledge that, if you are building a sales tech solution, this is how you should build. Why don't you start talking to the sales leaders in the valley from the very, very early on. So those are the kind of things we'll do. And we are uniquely positioned to do that because we are the single fund across the globe structure. Hiring is what we support in, opening door, getting them access to mentors, getting them to talk to multiple mentors, and then finally being the sounding board that a lot of solutioning on this any SaaS or irrespective any startup happens through first principle thinking and a bit of an experience from seeing early stage companies throughout your life, and which I think
Nice.
multiple VC companies will have. Our advantage on this fourth point is more around the fact that we were at the forefront from the very beginning of this trend, which we had identified back in 2007-8, that India to global and SaaS products will be big.
Yeah.
And that's where we have a lot more wealth of knowledge to be shared with the companies than,
Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah, and I think Anand, this has been really insightful discussion. Lot of things came out, good perspectives. So on that note, I would like to have lightning questions. I just have three, and it's not about
Okay.
yeah, they are not about SaaS. like
Oh, okay. Then
question.
I'm even more
Yeah,
scared.
yeah. No, it's normal. Yeah. So first one, yeah. So what, Anand, like, what do you know about your work now that you wish you would have known when you first started?
Yeah, the amount of amount of time spent talking to people,
Mm-hmm.
just talking to people. I knew it will be individualistic, it will be learning,
Mm-hmm.
but and not in a negative way, very positive way. I love talking to people, but
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that people will be so receptive. Like, like I ping a very, very senior founder of a company and he opens up and we talk and we just
Yeah.
talk. Then many times this doesn't have any agenda. He knows that Nexus is not going to fund them. He is probably Series D, Series E. But
Yeah.
I am happy to ping him on LinkedIn and say that, this is what a company problem is facing. Can you? So for example, and this is people. I pinged Vinod from Cloud Jerry, who was sitting in Valley now in Cisco, having sold his company to that. That hey, you seem to have moved the company from here to there on sales tech side. What should we be doing? I want to
Mm-hmm.
just pick your brain. And next day the meeting was set, and so
Yeah.
amount
That's really nice.
yeah, the amount of time we speak and talk to people and gain knowledge from each other is magnitude different from what I would have guessed is there.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally back that. I've been doing the same.
Keep it that way, right? I
Yeah.
just you on LinkedIn. I was like, hey, Sunil, you seem to be
Yeah.
doing some interesting stuff. Why don't we talk? And
Yeah.
then we talked.
Yeah.
So
That really helps. Yeah. So second one, like, what did your biggest professional failure teach you?
let me think which one. I have had so many failures. I don't know which one to
No,
pick up.
that's really great, right?
I think my startup, I did a startup on fintech, which was called Loan Social. It was an
Uh-huh.
alternate lending platform. I could not raise fund, incidentally and ironically so, because now I sit on the other side of the
Yeah.
table. The challenge and what it taught me was essentially that grit matters much more than like just the thinking and just the pedigree and everything else,
Mm-hmm.
because we sort of ended up folding the company in what, like, would be probably between 6 to 8 months, 8 months sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
because we thought that, and you will have every reason to tell yourself that this is not working because of XYZ, and because of that this will never work,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to overcome that only. In our case, we thought we were in the middle of that cycle when 2016
Mm-hmm.
funding had dried down, no VCs were funding this thing, and we were in our mind we had set up that चार पांच fintech के bet लगा चुके हैं, some major VCs, nobody is going to fund us. Without
Mm-hmm.
fund we are not able to grow it, and what do we do and what do we do, and we quit. And now those same ideas, they have become big. So now when I look back, it's easy to think, hey, if only would have done this for some time more time, we would have been
Mm-hmm.
successful. The answer was no, you just did not show grit. And now when I look for my entrepreneur, the one of the largest or the biggest quality I want to see is that how much grit he has. It's a very
Right.
soft quality to judge, but I try to push and deepen on that and try to figure out that how much grit would that entrepreneur have.
That's nice. Yes. And the last one, like, what's the number one thing that has helped you shorten your learning curve?
Talking to people again goes back to the first.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have, and that was my first learning at consulting. You consulting, what you have to like suddenly go into a company and tell them that in 20-30 days that you know more than what they know in 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest way to do is, it doesn't come through books,
Yeah.
it doesn't come through secondary learning at all. It just comes to amount of experience you can gain by talking to people who have been there and done that.
Yep.
Is just insanely higher than any other
Yeah,
medium.
you get unfiltered access to information, right? So
But
that's the goal.
other person will be should be open to talk to you in
Yeah,
a way. He should
but
not
I
be.
think I think in my experience, I reached out to I talked to like a lot of people as just like you, and in my experience at least people are open, right? And the other thing is like if people shoot you down, like they say that they're not interested, there are always more people.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely,
So
and you will be surprised. You will be pleasantly surprised when you start reaching out to people that
people do
you want
respond.
to learn. Yeah,
Yeah,
you want to learn. People respond because
yeah,
people also like to share, right? So yeah.
totally. So yeah, thanks a lot, Anand, for like coming and having those amazing insights.
Thank you so much for having me here, Sunil.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure talking to you and to whoever your audience is. Like as we are talking, I'm always open to talk. I
yeah,
love to share thoughts and ideas. Feel free to reach out to me over Twitter or over my LinkedIn.
yeah.
Whatever.
I'll make sure to include the links in the description. So go.
Sure.